Can you really make $30,000 from one photograph? Yeah, I did it. I'll bet you can do it too. But you need a great photo to start with. And how do you make a great photo? I think I've got some clues. I've been lucky enough to have talked with many great photographers over my career. And you know one of the things that I've learned as a stone cold truth? There's a difference between a good photo and a great photo, and I think I figured out how to make a great photo instead of a good photo. Not that I can do it every time, mind you, but I think I know what the difference is. Photo shoots are made up of a bunch of different variables. I don't want to change my lighting. I don't want to change a camera. I don't even want to change a lens in the middle of a photo shoot unless I really have to. You know why? It allows me to focus in with my tiny little brain on the most important part of making a great photo, and that is connecting with the subject. I need to really make sure that they trust me and they allow me to guide them through the process so that I can get everything I can out of that subject. Granted, it's not an easy thing to do, but if you can capture that image, that magic inside the image that makes you happy, it's probably going to make your client happy, that's why they hired you, and it's probably going to make you a lot of money. This shot has been very sellable for editorial and advertising use as a stock photo, and I've licensed it many times for those purposes. Well, it kind of happened on an accident. We were down in New Orleans with my photo crew working on a big advertising job. We were there for like a week. This is just a couple months after Katrina, kind of when they opened it back up again. Well, we saw there were a ton of street people, and we cruised through this one neighborhood and saw a bunch of these kind of funky looking street hustlers, and I hop out of the truck with my corporate embroidered shirt on and my fresh haircut, and I go, hey guys, hey guys, can I take your picture? Not quite as lame as that, but something like that. And they just like ignore me. They're just hanging out smoking weed on the sidewalk. So then I said, hey, I'll pay $20 to anyone I can take their picture and they'll sign a model release for me. Boom, that's all it took, man. We had them lined up around the block. So then I looked around and I saw there was a building across the street that had been kind of torn apart by Katrina, and it had this really cool reflective metallic siding on it. And I go, bam, that's perfect. And actually some of them were sleeping over there. So we set up really quick and started getting model releases signed, right? We're not going to take a picture of anybody unless they're going to sign a model release. So we were able to give them $20 for the signed model release. Yeah, a bunch of them took the $20 and headed out without getting their picture taken. But the first thing we did is got really comfortable with all these folks by showing them the type of tools that we're going to use, and we started making a couple images. These are JPEGs straight out of the camera that show you the type of lighting that we're looking for. Now this was done with a small 10-inch Elinchrom flash. It's a battery-powered ring flash that goes on the lens. It connects to an Elinchrom battery-powered Ranger pack. They are wonderful, weatherproof little systems. We used to just beat the snot out of them and get terrific pictures time after time. How about we take a look at the tech specs of this shot before we go any further?
This image was taken with a Nikon D700 using a Nikon 50mm f1.4 lens set at f9 at ISO 200. The camera was set to large fine JPEG mode, manual exposure of course, manual focus, and the shutter was set to 1/125th of a second. The color you see is the original unmodified JPEG file, and all that color came from setting the camera to vivid color mode. That's kept clean by using the custom white balance mode. That's going to produce gorgeous sRGB JPEGs that measure just over 4200 by 2800 pixels.
So keep in mind while I'm shooting here that there's a dozen kids behind me. So we're trying to move them out of the subject's eye line so that I can concentrate with this young lady while I'm taking her picture. Now at some point I do realize she's very high and she was having a hard time concentrating with me. So that energy was kind of building, which all leads to them trusting me to give me those expressions I'm asking them for. Now you'll notice that I have a photo assistant whose sole job on this shoot is to maintain exposure. Now we've got clouds moving in and out, thick clouds, going from mostly sunny to really cloudy. And because I want to manage my main light and fill light ratio there, the contrast of that shot, I really want to have 2/3 of the light that's flash and 1/3 of the light that's ambient. So I've got an assistant checking exposures every time he can. So when the clouds clouds change and I'm not paying attention to it, he'll actually run into the frame and get a meter reading for me. Now, this is where one of the higher end meters pays off, because there's a function called percent of flash, and that's what I want, right? If I want 2/3 flash and 1/3 ambient light, that means my percent of flash needs to be between 60% and 70%. If flash meters are a mystery to you, don't worry about it. We've got some flash meter videos on the way. Now here's where the magic starts to happen. I've got these two in the frame. I'm asking them to do crazy things. They actually started getting a little too crazy for me. Plus, if you look closely, that girl's wearing a Charlie Manson t-shirt. So I'm a little bit out of my element being a guy from suburban Chicago here. Gently, I'm coaching them into the poses that I'm looking for, and I actually got a couple really nice sales out of these images too. So at some point, I sensed that I started to lose the momentum, and I was losing their attention more than anything else. And it is blazing hot there. So we had a cooler worth of water. We started handing out the waters for everybody, and it extended our shoot time, but only by a little bit. So the remaining characters that were left, I asked them to go into this little kind of hutch that a couple of these people were actually sleeping in. And you'll see we've got that cool blue tarp. They're piling in there. They bring their dog. And then here's the lucky moment that I gave them instruction to give me the perfect image. Watch.
You're gonna shout in anger as loud as you can. Ready? 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 I mean, completely throw it out. Right? Right? 1, 2, 3.
And boom, it happens. I've got the big image that I have sold numerous times and a couple other ones, outtakes of those that are actually really good too. And just for your own info, these really are the JPEGs straight out of the camera. There's been no post-processing done to these whatsoever. So how did I make so much money with this image? Well, first thing I did was I showed this image to the client that had sent us to New Orleans in the first place. They weren't looking for an image like this, but once I showed it to them, they liked it. They didn't love it, they liked it, and they ended up buying a license to use it. Here's where it gets really interesting. At the time, I was shooting for a lot of editorial accounts like Time Magazine and Newsweek and People. So I had stock agencies that were really interested in my work. So I selected one in England called Rex Features, and they did a great job for me. When I sent this image over to them, they loved it and wanted to see more. So we sent a bunch of images their way. And wouldn't you know it, within a year, they sold it to AT&T and they sold it to Hertz Rent-A-Car. And you want to know one of the coolest things? Was I was traveling like a beast with my team back in those days. And Chicago O'Hare Airport was my home base, right? I think I spent more time in the airport than I did in my house. Well, walking through the corridor there and seeing those big light up displays that had this image on it, I gotta admit, it was really cool. It was nice getting paid for it too, but it was really fun having it up there. So how can you do the same thing? Well, of course, you need to capture those terrific images, but here's the best tip I can give you so you can do it as well. You gotta get signed model releases. If a stock agency is gonna take a picture like this and they don't need a signed model release, you don't wanna deal with that stock agency. You need to make sure that you have the easiest system that you can handle that gives you all the data that you need. You have a name and an address, the signature of the person, the date, all the legal beagle stuff. Now I use Easy Release. I put it on my iPhone as well as I've got it on an iPad that I use a lot on the road too. So anytime I'm going to take a picture and it's worth a darn and I may want to put it stock, I've got to make sure I've got a model release. There used to be a lot of conversation about should we sell rights and how much back in the day when I was shooting a lot of editorial and advertising images. But that conversation's been diluted by the internet and the population of photographers that we have in the globe. But that doesn't mean that you need to be sloppy with your rights of use to your client. It's always a great idea to get it in writing and let them know what they can use this for. Not so much what they can't use it for, but make sure you clearly define what they're going to be using this photo for. You created the image, therefore you own it. So that is your image to go ahead and sell, unless there are some certain restrictions, of course, as you need to through your stock agency. So keep in mind, stock photography might not be a whole lot of income for young photographers now, but get down the road a bunch, it might be a big deal. For your post-processing and editing, make sure that you use all the metadata options. Now, I use Lightroom as my primary workflow tool, and I have it set up so my standard copyright and information is embedded into each one of the photos that I create. Now, your camera's going to put information in there too, like when it was taken and geographic location if you have that turned on. You know about all that stuff. But I would suggest that every New Year's Day, that's how I remember to do it. Every New Year's Day, I update a few of my business financial things, and one of them is the template that goes on to copywriting and introducing my photos to the world as my copy. But whatever software tool you use, check it out and make sure you pour as much of your data as you can right into that original image. With all the options online now for stock photography use, it's hard as a photographer to find out who's good and who's bad. Now, I don't know who's good and who's bad. All I know is what I've been through. And the company that I used to use, Rex Features, was bought out by Shutterstock a few years ago. And to be honest with you, I wasn't real comfortable with the relationship, so I went to a couple others. Now, I've got 3, I believe, that I'm using right now, but the one that I seem to like the most is Alamy. One of the reasons I like it is they seem to be fair, of course, but the dashboard that they have for ingesting images and increasing their visibility on their database is really easy to use, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. Maybe 15 minutes to get used to it and you're good to go. Now, if you have a stock agency that you like and a reason why you like it, post a comment here or go through my website and send me an email. I'm always open to learn more ideas of how I can sell my pictures and make some more money. And finally, the key to a great image instead of a good image, in my opinion, is connecting with that subject and getting something really special. Even if it's unexpected, it could happen at any moment. You have to be ready as a photographer. That's why, of course, you got to know your equipment inside and out. And you may want to think about how you're going to choose particular words. Even when you greet people that come in for a photo session, you need to start at that point by getting them as comfortable as they can be. Photographer Mark Hauser, he's a master genius photographer. I think he said it best in a video that we made called Bold and Simple. It's also available on their channel for free. Here's how Mark got some of the world's most famous celebrities to loosen up and get rid of what he calls the personality face. Take a look at this.
The personality face is that face that they practiced in the mirror before they came to your photo session. They get at home and they say, gosh, I'm going to do a picture today, so I better look really good. So they get in the mirror and they start posing towards the mirror. Which looks better, my right or left-hand side? My top of my head, my bottom? Does this smile look good or does this smile look good? What I try to do is get them away from that personality face. Try to get them to do that moment that they really reveal themselves. And the way to do that is I have to really reveal myself. Do shockers, scream, shout. Don't be afraid. You're not going to embarrass yourself. They're going to go, wow, this guy's crazy. This woman's crazy. Come on, do something different. Try something different. Who knows? It might take you on a whole new route to photography. It can't be bad.